welcome back to the Big Plantation.
Shout out to the
Entering
deadbeat.
the first guest segment of our show. As I said, we got Glenn Zarmanov on the line. Glenn is a investigative researcher and has gone through the arduous task of looking through 5 terabytes of footage, which that's... Glenn, why don't you tell us, how much footage is that? How many hours is that?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Can hear you great.
Welcome.
Awesome. Very, very nice to be on your show. It's really good. I've been listening so far. It's the commercial was hilarious. So you guys are right on point with pointing out the absurdity of everything. Yeah, I'm a 9/11 researcher, and my main task recently, because this is an ongoing investigation. I mean, even the FBI and some of these agencies have admitted that it's still a cold case, that they don't have all the facts. Even some of the commissioners, as you may well know, have said that we haven't really gotten to the bottom of everything. Our job wasn't really to explain exactly what happened. They just kind of had like a limited hangout little storyline that they put out there. So we're all still in the process of figuring out what happened.
So what you have specifically honed in on the footage that came out with the NIST court case, and to me that's very, very interesting because not to discount the information that is out there about 9/11 truth. It's all very valid, very important information, but I feel like the 9/11 truth movement has been kind of beating the same dead horse for a few years now. So I'm really interested of what kind of revelations are still to come, and I think you might be able to help us with that with your viewing of this footage. So what kind of things have you found? Because I know you said you've put on a whole presentation.
Let me introduce where the information comes from. Basically, if you go to 9/11 blogger, the attorney James Gorley is the man who actually acquired all this footage. He threatened NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, with a giant lawsuit, and finally they relented because he knew how to use the FOIA laws, the Freedom of Information Act request, to basically get them to relent. So he didn't actually have to take them to court, but they figured, oh crap, this guy's a lawyer. If we don't do what he says, then we're going to be pretty much out on our ass. So he acquired a whopping 5 terabytes, that's 5,000 gigabytes approximately, of footage, video, and photos that NIST used for their so-called investigation. They were tasked with the charge of finding out exactly what caused the 3 skyscrapers to come down. But in these new videotapes, there's a whole bunch of things also related to the Pentagon, Flight 93, a whole bunch of stuff has come out. And if you go to 9/11 Blogger, you can find the original story. This all came out in 2010. So the headline is International Center for 9/11 Studies, NIST Cumulus Video Database Released. So for anybody listening right now, you can access the raw files themselves at the website 911datasets.org. That's 911datasets.org. And there's the raw Cumulus, NIST Cumulus Video Database, as it's called, which has 3+ terabytes of video, and they have additional, so it's rounded off at about 5 terabytes. And you can go look this up. This original news story is posted by James Gorley himself, a little-known guy. They had the Toronto hearings up in Canada, but here in the United States, most people, even in the 9/11 Truth Movement, are unaware of this information. I pointed Richard Gage in this direction back in 2010 because this all came out the week before the 9th anniversary, and here we are getting ready 4 years later to meet the 13th anniversary, and still people have not really heard about these 5 terabytes.
So what in your investigation have you found to help piece the whole puzzle together? Like what piece does this fit in the whole thing? Because, you got, as we were talking about earlier, the connections with Saudi Arabia. We've got the inconsistency of the ability of the pilots, the alleged pilots, to do what they were allegedly, doing. We have the physics of it that was obviously put out by architects and engineers at 9/11 Truth, not matching up. We've got the put options. We've got all this stuff. So what kind of new revelations, what kind of new pieces to the puzzle can we find from examining this footage?
Right. Well, I've gone through about as much of it as I can. There's a whole bunch of other great channels out there on YouTube, which I won't be able to list right now. But if you go to youtube.com/wearechangenj, my channel has a lot of these clips that are in this new batch of tapes. And a lot of it is just brand new witnesses for the demolition of the towers that we never heard before, new plane strike footage, a whole bunch of things, actually. And the main thing that I honed in on, especially with the World Trade Center attacks, is they said there was no evidence of bombs or people reporting any such explosions or loud sounds of explosions. We have a bunch of that all over the place, even though some of these videos and audio tapes have been manipulated or edited to try to hide some of this stuff. There's a whole bunch of damning stuff in here with people just basically saying what we've been saying all along, except before it was speculative. Now we actually have hard witnesses. Some of these interviews were taped but never aired. Some of them aired but were never seen again. So we have people talking about ground level explosions in the lobby and the basement before the planes even hit, something we've been hearing about here and there for the past decade, but now we have it in triplicate. At least we have multiple witnesses talking also about the nature of the aircraft. That's a major revelation because, in my opinion, the hijackers were not even involved. I don't even believe there were any hijackers. I believe we've been fed a media script, cover story, and that there may never have even been any passengers aboard those aircraft. It sounds like I'm going out on a limb saying that, but the question that I always had is how come we don't really hear from the victims' family members who are all supposedly aboard those aircraft? How come we only hear mostly from the people who were in the buildings? And so it really begs the question, I mean, were there even any hijackers to begin with? I mean, first of all, we know it's preposterous that these people could manually, anyone, whether they're Muslim fanatics or not, manually pilot these aircraft into their targets, 75% accuracy. And it's just preposterous. It's not that easy to just get into a cockpit of an airplane and just sit down and start flying.
And the details of how they did it obviously render that extremely unlikely. Doing the very large corkscrew downturn into the Pentagon, hovering right above the lawn. That doesn't really sound likely by a guy who couldn't fly a single engine Cessna. That doesn't make any sense. And this is one of those things where it kind of separates from where we can speculate and where we can and know for a fact. And I think it's great that we can point to these videos and say, here's the facts, because we can talk about all we want of what we think happened. I personally do think that there was hijackers, but I feel like that they were probably part of an operation and then maybe remote control the planes and had no control. They were just as much a part of the setup as anybody else.
Well, that's exactly it. We have basically two competing theories at this point. There either was a swap of aircraft, commercial airplanes for drone aircraft, or there never were any such commercial planes to begin with, because all the evidence we've been presented is incredibly dubious, including the hijackers supposedly boarding the planes, all those videos from the airports and stuff like that, the flight manifests, to the number of passengers that died among all four aircraft. It's just really, really suspicious. You have to question everything that we were told, because in these new batch of tapes, I mean, I'm an eyewitness. I saw the second plane strike in person, as well as both towers come down right in person here across the Hudson River in Jersey City. And in a lot of these new tapes, a lot of people say that they saw a military aircraft hit the second tower, and that the first aircraft was likely a similar device. So in my estimation, 9/11 really introduced the age of drones. It was drone aircraft that hit the Pentagon, and it was drone aircraft that hit the Twin Towers. And you have witness after witness making these anomalous statements, talking about it was a military plane, it was a gray plane, it was a black plane. I have FDNY on video saying a big black aircraft hit the South Tower. So what do you make of that? I don't think these firefighters have any incentive to lie, especially since these tapes were covered up for so long, and it goes against what we were told about American and United being involved.
Absolutely, and it's only a surprise. The idea of a drone or remote controlled aircraft is only a surprise to people who are not looking into these kind of things, because the reality of the fact is, it's been beaten to death, but Operation Northwoods, that made it all the way to Kennedy's desk, and in the 60s was use of remote controlled commercial looking airliners, so and to use them as weapons. So that technology has certainly existed for a very long time. But I'm curious, what you're talking about the planes? You said you've got New York Fire Department saying they saw a huge black plane. What other reports are there? Because I know that there was the unidentified white plane that people were talking about, that we saw a little bit of reported on. You're saying a black plane. Was there any other kind of reports?
Yeah, a whole bunch of witnesses. The overlapping fact is that it was some kind of military aircraft, dark in appearance. Definitely not behaving like a hijacked commercial aircraft. Just the physics alone should bother people to think that a aluminum commercial aircraft can pierce the side of a building of like One World Trade Center tower is totally ridiculous. It had to be something that could pass through the steel cladding and the central core and causes giant fireball. So again, there was either a swap or it was just drones, and they made up an entire cover story with these victims' family members and these hijackers. It's all very suspicious. I put together a video series that anybody can access on YouTube simply by typing in the query 9/11 Gate, just like you had Climate Gate, which finally put the nail in the coffin of the global warming scheme. 9/11 Gate should and is slowly but surely putting the nail in the coffin of the official story. And I put together a small little description here for your listeners that can succinctly explain just what's in this new footage. So
now, going through all this footage, did you find any more enlightening information about what took place with Building 7?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have damning new video releases of the penthouse collapses, which always you see these video of Building 7 collapse start in the middle of the building's collapse. You never really get to see that there are two penthouse structures on the roof line of Building 7 that actually kink in before the building proper starts to descend. So it's a clear example of a top-down controlled demolition. First, the roof line implodes, which was not on fire, and then the bottom of the building blows out. So very clear, stunning detail, also audio recordings of the bombs going off in Building 7. But if I may, just briefly read this succinct description of what's in this 9/11 Gate video series. This will kind of give you an overview of the contents of this new footage. So it says, 9/11 Gate emerged on August 31st, 2010, the day that the truth about September 11th, 2001 was finally released to the public. 9/11 Gate is the nickname for the staggering 3+ terabytes, nearly 5, of video evidence that was declassified by the government 1 week before the 9th anniversary of 9/11 in 2010. The new evidence conclusively proves that World Trade Center 1 and 2 were blown up with explosives and bombs, and they did not collapse as a result of fires. WTC 7 was blown up with explosives and bombs, and there were flashes and blasts seen, heard, and going off in all 3 of the towers before any of them came down. The planes that hit the towers were flying like military aircraft, according to eyewitnesses, some of whom distinctly said they were not commercial airliners. And if they weren't drones, then likely the commercial aircraft would have been remotely controlled as well. Also, there are multiple instances of foreknowledge of 9/11. The Defense Department whistleblowers that we've been hearing about all these years, warning of the attack, specifically including the date, time, place, method of attack. You mentioned the insider trading. That's all revealed in these batch of tapes as well, because in this batch of tapes, we also have the original news reports from the day of the attacks. So even that was sealed shut and not really released as public domain until now. You had Loose Change include little clips here and there in their first incarnation, but now we have all the original news footage from that day proving that there was prepackaged news reports basically trying to sell the official line before there even was any investigation. They hit the ground running with a media hoax. And there was also evidence of television and movie shows depicting the attacks before they happened. So pre-programming, that's perhaps the most stunning revelation. It's more circumstantial evidence, but to me that's the most glaring thing that needs to be further investigated. There's a whole bunch of cartoons, television shows, movies, even comic books and video games and print advertisements that depict the 9/11 attacks happening before they took place. So it's all incredibly suspicious, and it needs to be investigated, because many of these shows even blame Muslims for the upcoming attacks, which in truth the CIA or the Pentagon staged so they can justify their illegal international war on terrorism, which in truth is a war for drugs and other natural resources.
I mean, I totally agree. One of the main things that is done in the military, from what I understand, is to dehumanize your enemies so that you can see them as less than yourself, less than human, and that you can self-justify within your own psyche to do absolutely barbaric and inhumane things and have no remorse for it. And I think that was central in the narrative for us to generate an intense amount of hate aimed at these people so that we could justify what will go on to be 1 million dead Iraqis alone. God only knows what the numbers are in Afghanistan. Rampant heroin production increase, rapid decrease of running water, internet access, and literacy rates. And we've certainly seen all that. But a question I have is you're talking about what looks to be a prepackaged media blitz on the whole thing. Do you feel that also employed the use of actors? Because I know that there's been some claims out there of, like, there's the infamous Harley guy. People who just seem to have all the information right after the tower came down, and there's people who are in the 9/11 videos that look pretty similar to people that are interviewed after other tragedies and things like that. What is your opinion on the use of actors to kind of generate
That's exactly
the media
where
narrative?
I'm going with this information, is that now, in the wake of events like the Boston bombing and the 7/7 attacks is another glaring example, where you have people running on the streets who weren't even victims with fake injuries, fake bandages, just to kind of make it scarier than it actually is for television viewers. So sure, 9/11 happened out in the real world, but it also happened on a computer screen, most likely produced in a news laboratory somewhere. So yes, this was a concerted media blitz to try to get people who were only able to watch it on TV to think that it was actually the way they said it was, and it certainly is not the case. Looking back at it 10 and now 13 years later, we can see that a lot of these interviews with some of these so-called plain witnesses, as well as some of these victims, are in fact scripted, staged. There's a lot of these tapes where you see firefighters in pristine gear, not even dusty, saying they've been digging all day, and they're just there to just play up the narrative.
Expand on what you mean by, obviously, I mean, there are some people out there who claim planes never hit. I've never subscribed to that. But explain what you meant when you said, it happened on a computer screen as well. I'm not sure I follow.
Well, I have a clip on my YouTube channel of Peter Jennings on ABC saying that when we saw the second plane strike, it reminded him of a CGI graphic artist. And, you look at some of these so-called second plane strike videos, it's pretty clear to anyone, especially if you're in media or graphics, that these were computer animations done on a television screen just to basically have some footage that they could loop over and over again to traumatize people. I mean, that was the goal here, wasn't it? To get people afraid of flying. And look at how devastatingly effective that has been with the TSA and everything. So certainly some kind of real physical aircraft hit the building, because I saw it in person. And I know people here in Jersey City who also witnessed the attacks. Some people even saw the first plane hit, because there's even less footage of that going on. Only a few people actually can attest to seeing it, because it happened so early in the morning. But yeah, some kind of physical aircraft actually did hit, but what we saw on television was not what actually took place in real life.
The extent of my research on that is I watched the documentary September Clues, and that does really make some good points and gives you some perspective on the possibility of that. I've honestly never personally given too much thought to the idea that what we saw on TV. I mean, how? Again, I'm not familiar with that particular idea, that viewpoint within the entire
Well, I'll just say this. Like I said, even in this batch of tapes, which a lot of it shows a clear audio or video of the buildings blowing up and all this other stuff, a lot of it has been edited or doctored. So anything that we get from the government, even in these 5 terabytes, we have to be extremely suspicious whether it's or not it's been edited or manipulated.
Now, did you happen to get, was there any footage in there of the original arrests of the Israeli group of people that were seen filming the first plane strike? Because I know that's allegedly where a lot of the first footage
sure, there
came
might
from.
be some of that in there. That's not my area of expertise. I know some people who are looking into the whole Israeli element of it. That also did take place here in the Hudson County area. In Weehawken and Jersey City is where they saw these individuals who were dressed like Arabs, but they later turned out to be Israeli spies that were let go, even though they should have been questioned and interrogated. I don't know too much about that, but I haven't seen that too much in these batch of tapes.
Oh man, yeah. From what I understand, they were interrogated, and not only were they Israeli, but they actually turned out to be Mossad agents, and then were sent back to Israel. I think I believe the quote is, "We were sent there to record the event," which again, obviously points to some kind of foreknowledge.
Yeah, I'm sure if this entity was involved, they were just there to assist in the attacks. I'm not exactly sure what extent the Saudis or the Israelis or whoever else might have been involved. My research points squarely at the Pentagon in this entire operation because they were running war game exercises of the attacks during the attacks as well as during the summer in the months prior. So that's where I think we should look more than anything is look at what was going on in and around the day of 9/11 so that they could actually pull off this operation.
We've got 4 minutes before the break, so if you kind of want to just take the floor and take us out on what we talked about the towers, if you kind of want to just make the case for what your research says about the Pentagon, you got about 4 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll just leave you with some fun facts. My hypothesis is that 9/11 is a sacred myth. That's pretty clear. I mean, this is the U.S. government's sacred cash cow. That's why they constantly have to prop this narrative up. It's a legend. It was a story that was told to us. But the more the story is retold, the more it gets distorted and it turns into a myth. The Pentagon itself was built on 9/11. Ground was broken for construction on September 11th, 1941. So we're talking about a conspiracy that possibly stretches back 60 years to the very construction of the Pentagon, which was built just a few months before Pearl Harbor. And what is 9/11, of course, but the new Pearl Harbor. So we have to look at exactly what happened at the Pentagon because that is what really took us to war. The civilian casualties were just there to create shock and awe in New York City. The Pentagon is what actually made it an act of war because that was the military nerve center attacking itself. So it was a self-inflicted wound to basically con the gullible public into supporting something they otherwise wouldn't support. And they've created this fictional entity, which to my knowledge may not have even existed. Osama bin Laden is just a character created by these intelligence agencies. And if you even look at the phrasing of the guy's name, he has been laden. He is literally Osama bin Laden. He's been burdened with the task of being your enemy. So this is all a concerted psychological warfare operation by the military. And the Pentagon was also a controlled demolition. That collapsed section, as you see, did not happen right away with whatever hit it. That happened sometime after whatever aircraft impacted the Pentagon. So there's a whole bunch of things that are now coming to light with that. And in the case of the fourth attack site in Pennsylvania in Shanksville, there really is no evidence of an aircraft even having crashed there. It's just a hole in the ground with a bunch of smoke coming out of it. People say it was shot down. Other people say it wasn't shot down. In my research, there really wasn't even anything there. So the media, again, ran a hoax and just simply told us, hey, a plane crashed here. Where is the evidence of the airplane? Just like with this whole Malaysian flight I heard you guys talking about before. I mean, if it couldn't happen in 2001, it certainly can't happen in 2014. That 4 errant aircraft can just go off radar and, hit their targets in this manner. So we've got to reinvestigate anything and everything we've been told about September 11th. This is basically a giant war-making ritual that was carried out by the War Department 60 years ago when they were honest enough to call themselves the War Department. Now they call themselves the Department of Defense, and they just blamed it on a surprise attack, outside threat, when really this is all just carefully concerted. And it's my contention that the towers themselves were even built to be attacked on the day. The whole nature of the event itself is highly symbolic. The Twin Towers and the Pentagon, these are all Masonic symbols. So this is really goes a lot deeper than just a couple planes and a couple buildings.
That's my subject matter right there. I would love to ask you what if you looked into the My Pet Goat reading and the occult symbolism involved in that. Have you ever researched any of that?
Well, I wish I could get into more detail on your show about all these things because a lot of people have told me I shouldn't go there, we shouldn't explore these avenues, we should just stick to the forensic data which is contained in these NIST FOIA tapes. But there's a whole bunch of things that we really, new avenues of research that are now beginning to open up that we really should consider. For me, the most glaring and bizarre is the predictive programming, the very notion, which we're all familiar with, that the Pentagon works with Hollywood and they're planting all these scripts in the television shows to prepare
good.
to
I'm sorry, I gotta
ahead of
He's
time.
got to
That is the
stay on
greatest
the show
operation
right now.
in 9/11 in my
But
understanding.
we're up against the break. YouTube.com/WeAreChangeNJ to see
We're
all of
having him
his
back
work.
on.
We'll have to have you back on, man.
Thank you so much.
Show what? It's my turn to boom some obscenities and boom up celebrities and sense like common home remedies and burn incense. Do you learn? Who's with the jewels?
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Joseph Nazari, Director of Training Operations with Line of Fire LLC, Professional Firearms Training Group, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fact that you're listening to this show is evidence to me that you are a true patriot and you do value your freedoms. As all patriots know, with freedom comes responsibility, and if you own a firearm, training should be an integral part of your personal defense profile. If you're considering quality firearms training, Line of Fire LLC should be your first choice. We teach all types of firearms training for all types of individuals, from the novice to the most advanced shooters. At Line of Fire LLC, we have a course for you. Please feel free to call us today at 702-242-8288. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, that's Line of Fire LLC, 702-242-8288.
Now I'm covered.
Now for the first time, you can be covered. If you've been waiting to be covered in mandates, regulations, and new fees, the time is finally here. Sort of. So make some coffee.
I'm covered.
Approach life with reckless abandon. Kick your feet up.
I'm covered.
Because you're going to be in the waiting room for quite a while. But don't you worry your pretty little head off. First of all, it wouldn't be covered.
We're covered.
No, I said it would not be covered.
Now we're covered.
No, that's not... Yeah, I don't think you understood what I meant by covered earlier. It was a little bit ironic. Healthcare.gov is not responsible for fulfilling any of the expectations, mandates, legal requirements, hopes, or dreams of any users. Results may vary. Consult your Obamacare-approved doctor or pharmacist to find out if Obamacare is right for you. Current waiting lists to have your doctor chosen for you are unavailable and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Obamacare may cause wait times, a decline in healthcare quality, money loss, political activism, anger, despair, hopelessness, frustration, European envy, dependence, and nausea. If you discover that your premiums have gone up as a result of Obamacare, please note that the program is working as intended and refrain from complaining. Call your doctor if you experience anxiety for longer than 4 hours. If you wish to opt out of Obamacare for any reason, please start a multi-million-dollar business, join a union, or run for Congress.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Irene.
I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom.
I'm a graphic designer,
College freshman,
Stay-at-home mom with a full-time job,
scholar on social policy, and a barista.
and I'm just like you.
I'm an Obama supporter.
I support President Obama.
But the president needs your help.
Our president can't launch into another war without you. And remember, we promise to support him no matter what.
Together, we can do it.
That's why we here at the Americans for Whatever Barack Obama Wants, Did You Know He's Friends with Jay-Z, have launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund World War III.
And America is dead-ass broke, so our goal is to raise $1.6 trillion on behalf of the U.S. government.
That's where you come in.
Even a small donation would make all the difference.
When I first saw the president speak in 2008, in a YouTube clip posted to my Facebook page, I knew he was going to be right all the time. So I support World War III and IV and any moon war the president may want to start.
I mean, there is no way that he or the cabal of corporate interests, spy agencies, and shadow bankers that tell him what to do would ever mislead us. A $25 donation will get you a piece of rubble from a war-torn Middle Eastern country kissed by Senator Lindsey Graham.
A $100 donation gets you a day pass to leave your local refugee camp.
You'll probably end up in a refugee camp, but it'll have free Wi-Fi.
So please, help us reach our goal of $1.6 trillion so we can make World War III a reality. Why? Because Obama.
Because Obama.
age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.